Thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday, January 19th, 2023, 6 o'clock p.m. edition of the Auburn Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Robert Tatro. I am the chair, and I will be moving the meeting forward this evening. I have to read a script first before we get into the public hearing, so please allow me to do that. The Zoning Board of Appeals participation script is what it's referred to, and it's confirming member access. So this open meeting of the Town of Auburn Zoning Board of Appeals is being operated as a hybrid format under Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022. The public can join the meeting remotely by calling on your telephone at 1-646-749-3112 and entering the access code 944-571-349. Or you can log on to your computer and you can visit globalgotomeeting.com, and in the upper right corner, you can enter the same access code as the phone. It's 944-571-349. All the supporting materials that the members and I have this evening are on the website. And if you would like to follow along, you are encouraged to go into the auburnguide.com, where you will find the scanned copies of all the documents. So as a preliminary matter, we're going to make sure that everyone is here and they can see and hear us. So as I call your name, you can please respond in the affirmative. Vice Chair Michael Marin.
Present.
Mr. Cussy.
Present.
And we also know for the record, Mr. Chicolo, we'll get that first.
Present.
Thank you. And for the record, Ryan Garabedian is our alternate member, and due to the absence of Megan Roach and Caitlin Bush, we're going to be moving Mr. Garabedian forward to full voting member this evening. So if town officials, if you are present when I call your name, please respond. Tim Pratt.
Present.
DDIS clerk, great. So also please note that each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. And please note that this meeting is being recorded by Auburn Cable Television. And if there are any applicants participating remotely, if you could please state your name and address and introduce yourself now. Okay, hearing none, seeing none, we'll move forward. I want to make sure we cover all that. Yes, we did. Okay. So we have a public hearing at 6 o'clock p.m. Applicant Daniel and Amanda McNeil requesting a special permit under section 9.3.1.2 of the Auburn zoning bylaw for an accessory apartment located at 11 Nancy Drive, map 10, parcel 188. This is an open hearing that was continued from 12/15/22, and we received an email yesterday stating that the applicant would like to withdraw their application without prejudice. So I need to open the hearing, vote on whether or not we accept that, and then we can close it because it is actually going to be completing the application, and then we can move to 6:05. So do I have a motion to open the 6 o'clock p.m. hearing as read?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, the only addendum I would make is that it's continued hearing, so we don't actually have to open the hearing.
Thank you. I just thought I said that, but I went ahead and did it anyway.
That's why I'm here.
That's why you are here.
Not to just look pretty. So, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to accept the applicant's request to withdraw without prejudice.
Excellent. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. So again, roll call vote. So we have Vice Chair Marin.
I approve.
Mr. Chicolo for the second. Thank you. Mr. Cussy.
Approve.
Mr. Garabedian.
Approve.
Thank you. And I vote to approve. So that's our 6 o'clock p.m. hearing. We've accepted the motion to withdraw. So now officially, do I have a motion to close this hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to close the hearing as stated. Second.
Thank you. Vice Chair.
I approve.
Mr. Chicolo.
Approve.
Mr. Cussy.
Approve.
Mr. Garabedian?
Approve.
And I approve. Okay, so see, 6 o'clock hearing we took care of, and we're just about right on time. Perfect. So if you want to get set up, we have a 605 applicant, James Renke, requesting a special permit under section 8.2.3 of the Auburn zoning bylaw for alteration of a pre-existing non-conforming structure at 150 Oxford Street North, map 17, parcel 166. Do I have a motion to open the hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to open the hearing. Second.
Thank you. You vote, sir?
I approve.
Mr. Chicolo, you vote?
Approve.
Mr. Cussy?
Approve.
Mr. Garabedian?
Approve.
And I vote to approve. The hearing is officially open. So, sir, I'm going to have you approach the lectern. Please introduce yourself. Go over what you'd like to alter, and then I'll present it to the board, or if you have any abutters.
Good evening, members of the board. Jim Renke, 46 Lake Sergeant Drive in Leicester, Mass. Here on behalf of the homeowner at 150 Oxford Street North. for a special permit for alteration or extension of pre-existing non-conforming use. More specifically, a removal of a more non-conforming deck, cementous deck, being replaced with a pressure-treated, more conforming deck. So the conformity is not getting any larger, it's actually getting smaller, and we completely remove the impervious area that the concrete deck would have still, if it was still left in place. It would obviously not be pervious. So basically a deck on the back of a house.
Right.
In short, so we made sure we were within the setbacks. There's one area, it's a covered porch area that was also cementous. We took out the cementous portion and put a deck there, no change in footprint. The deck that was kind of in the back, which you can see in your plot plan and plans, was offset to make sure we're within the setbacks and less encroaching on the rear setback.
Okay. Do I have any abutters present that'd like to speak on this hearing before I turn it over to the board? Okay, hearing none, seeing none. Vice Chair, you, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, sir. So just a couple of questions for clarification. So the deck, from my understanding, what makes it a non-conforming use is in fact a setback from the cement deck that's being replaced. Is that correct?
On the left-hand side, let me see if you want the wayfinder. So on the southerly side of the home in the front side of the house is where it encroaches into the side and front setbacks.
So it's the setbacks that make it a non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming use.
And maybe the lot size, I didn't look at that part because it really.
Okay, understood. And leading into that question in such a way, because I wanted to, so you're not changing the footprint of that deck, is that correct?
The footprint of the deck underneath the covered porch, which is is over the setback, is not changing.
So that footprint remains the same?
Correct.
So just help me understand when you had said that it's actually reducing the degree of nonconformity. What's in your understanding reducing the nonconformity? I understand that it's not increasing the nonconformity.
Correct.
Which would be a different concern. But I just help me understand why it's actually reducing the nonconformity.
So the old deck, the concrete patio, if you look at it, actually is, I don't have the measurement, but it actually encroaches further into the backyard and further into the rear yard setback. It's still plenty within the limits. The new deck is closer to the house. I think it's about, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet shorter than the original one. But it's bigger side to side, so.
Okay, I understand. So to be a purist, it is changing the footprint, but in such a way that reduces the nonconformity based on that setback line. Okay, now I fully understand that. Thank you, sir. I'm going to reserve, Mr. Chairman, but I don't have any additional questions at this time.
Excellent, thank you very much. Mr. Cussy, the floor is yours, sir.
I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Chicolo?
I have no questions either.
Thank you. Mr. Garabedian, sir?
I have no questions.
And as usual, the vice chair has covered all of mine, so that's perfect, honestly. So again, no abutters present. I just want to make sure one more time, and we don't have any that have called in with any concerns. So hearing none, seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public portion of the hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
Second.
Thank you. So voted, vice chair?
I approve.
Mr. Cussy?
Approve.
Mr. Chicolo?
Approve.
Mr. Garabedian? And I approve. So the public portion of the hearing is closed. So do I have any discussion, or do I have a motion?
I have no discussion points unless any other boards do, but Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve with standard conditions.
Any of the other members have an issue that they would like to discuss before we move forward with that?
Second.
Okay, so as a roll call vote, vice chair,
I approve as stated.
Mr. Chicolo, excuse me, I'm sorry. Mr. Cussy?
Approve.
Mr. Garabedian? And I approve. You are all set, sir.
Thank you.
So, I'm sure you can contact the, Department of Inspectional Services, and they'll make sure all the paperwork is adjusted accordingly, so good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so, we need to close, right? So,
We closed the portion of the hearing.
Yeah, yeah.
We voted, so I think we're good.
okay,
I think we're good.
okay, I agree. So we are at the 6:10, right on time, look at that. So we have a 6:10 PM applicant, Atef Waba, and I apologize if I did not say that correctly, requesting a special permit under section 9.3.12 of the Auburn zoning bylaw for an accessory apartment located at 18 Coolidge Street, map 57, parcel 128. Is the applicant present? If you could go to the lectern and just give us an overview of what you'd like to try to accomplish, and then I can turn it over to the board. Do we have any abutters here while we're checking in, just to make sure? Okay.
So we have a finished basement that we finished up and we wanted to rent it because it's a small apartment.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. Did we open this hearing, sir?
Oh, so you're right, I apologize. 1 second, please.
No worries.
just was-
I don't mean to,
I was focusing.
I don't mean to land on formality.
No, that's okay, no,
I
you're
just-
right. So
wasn't
could I have
sure.
a motion to open the 6:10?
Make a motion to open the hearing, sir.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Vice Chair Maron?
I approve.
Mr. Chacolo?
Approve.
Mr. Cussy? Approve. Mr. Garabedian? Approve. And I approve. Hearing is officially open, correct? Thank you. So if you could go ahead, you have a finished basement, and you have an apartment that exists there now?
Yes, it's a small apartment. Yeah.
And do you have, was this permitted in the past by the town? Is it an official apartment?
We want the permit to be able to rent it.
Yeah,
I see, okay. So now I understand a little bit more about the hearing. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to the board. I didn't see any abutters present, so, if we'll try to navigate through the questioning.
Mr. Chairman, because I was the one that so rudely interrupted them, I didn't know if they had any additional comments to share from your brief.
No.
Okay, all right. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to reserve and give the other board members an opportunity to step forward.
Okay, Mr. Cussy, do you, sir?
Yeah, has any of this been inspected as it was built? So did you have a permit to,
start to do it. We need just, it's like a proof to see if down is gonna happen.
We just need the approval to be able to see if we're able to rent it, if it qualifies as a good apartment to be able to rent.
Yeah,
so it's been inspected and everything by the,
no.
so it's never been inspected?
It's nice and clean, but we didn't use it. We have, it's like big size house, and that one we spent a lot of money to clean it, and we didn't use it. We need just to know if we can rent it or not.
So this was already done when you bought the house?
No, we did it.
We did.
We finished the basement.
After, when you finished your basement?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so you got a permit, it's been inspected. It's 650 square feet, so this is a accessory apartment.
So if, I have to be honest, I'm confused. So I think what they're looking for is to be able to rent it. You were talking about renting it to a non-family member, or is that what you're looking to do?
Yes.
Okay, so what we've discussed in the past, I think with the hearings,
Yeah.
is that we talk about that the fact that the accessory use apartment tends to be somebody that's in the family or those types of things. So I think what they're looking for is to be able to rent it outside. I don't know if that really applies to our bylaw here. I don't know if that's something that we should interpret, to tell you the truth. I'm not an expert in this matter, I think if they've already had the permit issued for the apartment, then I don't know I don't think we can offer anything else, right?
Mr. Chairman, if I might,
Yes.
I think there might be some confusion in the answer that we got
Right.
to the question, has it been inspected and did you have a permit?
Right.
I think from speaking with the building inspector and what I'm seeing here on the application, I think there's some confusion as to what inspected means.
Right. I think I
Because
agree.
As it sits right now, the information provided by the building inspector would tell me that it has not been inspected and it is not a legal apartment at this time. So he has stated that in order to be an accessory apartment, this must be and I'll use his words, I caution the applicant that a 1-hour fire separation will be required between existing home and the proposed apartment. Have you spoken with the building inspector? I'm sorry, I'm taking your time.
That's okay.
Mr. Cussy.
That's okay, this is good.
Have you spoken with the building inspector as to how you would accomplish this 1-hour fire separation?
No.
So that you at this time don't know how you would be doing that?
I'm sorry, just give me a second. My daughter, she translated.
I'm sorry,
that
I
one for
can't
me
hear you.
because my daughter translated that one to me because my language is not good. Just give me a second.
Somebody to translate for me.
She's going to have her daughter translate for her because she has
Okay.
commercial English capability.
Okay.
ما فيش حد شاف الصعب.
هم قالوا ده الحاجات اللي بتبدأ بيه في الأول.
Has to do that,
Yeah.
because it has not been.
Did you receive the letter from?
Correct. It was,
Received the letter, the email in the last week?
excuse me, can you talk in and address?
So hold on one second.
Board?
Before we've lost track of this, and we've had a couple of side conversations. We're gonna bring it back to
Yeah.
the center for a minute. So I think what we probably should do is, the way I interpret the information that we have before us is that were they inspected? As you're interpreting it, and that they need to increase the fire protection between the two?
The way that I interpret, Mr. Maron and I spoke with the building inspector, and the interpretation I believe that we both had was that he had stated this, whether he saw it or not, he will have to go in and inspect it.
Understood.
After this separation is made. And also, if you have somebody, a contractor, I'm sure, go in and you can accomplish this 1-hour fire separation with a 5/8" fire code sheetrock between the two living areas. So that would satisfy our building inspector. If there's any question about the way I just said that to you, the building inspector, I'm sure, will be happy to reiterate that and give you further direction as to how you will accomplish it. Then you'll have to be inspected, and then you'll receive the special permit. However, I do believe we can issue the special permit pending what I've just said.
Yes, I agree. I would say that your interpretation of that is very well done. Thank you, sir. Very, very well articulated.
Okay. So, if we give them a special permit with all normal requirements, plus the additional inspection by the building inspector after the fire code sheetrock, the 1-hour separation is put in.
So, do you have any, I'd love to be able to give the other members of the board the opportunity, since this is kind of an open discussion here at this point. Anybody else want to add? Mr. Garabedian, do you have anything you want to talk about with this?
Sure. So, kind of a different point, but earlier we were talking about how generally accessory use apartments are for in-laws and other relatives, but right in the purposes, 9.3.12.2, Section B says add inexpensive rental units, so I think there's no problem with the,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so the interpretation of the bylaw we stand with. Okay, so with that being said, Vice Chair, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a couple of follow-up questions for the applicant, if I may.
You may.
And I think, I appreciate the line of questioning that Mr. Chacolo took us down to clarify what would be required through a permitting process. So my understanding is that you essentially constructed this apartment, in the basement, correct?
Yes, when we bought the house, it wasn't finished, and then we did it ourselves.
Okay, so you finished it, you put the kitchen and the bathroom in.
We finished the bathroom, yes, but not the kitchen yet.
So the kitchen's unfinished?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so what else
We
in the
have-
apartment?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry, we have a permit for the bathroom, but not the kitchen.
But it's finished, but we didn't put the oven or stove, a fridge, stuff like that, we didn't put it on.
Okay, and that's what, thank you, because those are the details that are important to me. So this is not a finished apartment, correct?
Yes.
You don't have an occupancy for this. I mean, I think we're interpreting differently, and I don't want to slice hairs, but you don't have an active kitchen in this apartment today, correct?
No.
Okay, so it's an unfinished, it's an unfinished apartment. One of the points, just for record, that I want to go on is I know the building inspector made comment on agreeing with the 650 square footage. Mr. Chairman, just for a matter of clarification, I drew up, and my figures came to 686. It's certainly still below our bylaw.
Right.
So it's a non-issue, but I didn't land at the 650. So secondarily, I was going to ask about occupancy because what I was hearing was that you finished the apartment. I'm just going to submit to you respectfully that it's not a finished apartment, that you don't have an active kitchen, that hasn't been finished yet. And so those topics would be taken care of through the permitting process. When was this project started?
2 years ago or 2 years ago?
Ms. Hess? Yep.
The only question I have, are you gonna live in the house? You live in the house?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I wanted to, just for my own edification, when it was being discussed, that it was a finished apartment, and had it been previously inspected, there wouldn't be any occupancy at this point in time granted. They would still need to have it fully inspected and had it turned on as an apartment per se, because they don't have a working kitchen, and it sounds like you had just completed the bathroom. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, I tend to think of this as granting the permit is to allow the continuation of the construction under the supervision or practices of a contractor to get to the fire break point and to get the kitchen done, and then a final inspection by the building department before an occupancy permit is issued to make sure that we are all to code.
I think you're absolutely right, Mr. Chairman, and to put a fine point on Ms. Chicolo's line of questioning, in that the building inspector had assured us when we were seeking his counsel and reviewing the property from the exterior, was that his comments in here, based on the 1 hour fire separation, were meant to be proactive and essentially giving them visibility into, his words succinctly, what they were getting involved in. And that my comfort level lied on, once he got in there and once he went through the permitting process, those activities would be taken care of through the natural permitting process and through the advice that he would counsel them on what they needed to do. So I think you're right. I think we have an opportunity here. I would actually commend the applicants for coming forward with this.
Again, yeah.
You know, it's property that we viewed from the exterior. And I dare say that if they had not come forward in such a way, what's to stop them from finishing with tradesmen on their own and not bringing it forward? So I would commend them for doing the right thing to make sure that it's safe in that fashion.
And I agree, that's been our longstanding policy with the apartments that we are not familiar with, to make
Right.
sure that they are first and foremost safe. So thank you again for pointing that out, too.
I would just end my comments on, I would roll back the comments of it being an illegal apartment. I consider this a dwelling under construction, so to speak, because it's not a finished apartment. There's no cooking area that's been established, and just a bathroom being constructed. So I would commend them for doing the right thing to make sure that it's safe and constructed in such a way with the egresses that are necessary.
I agree. Okay, so just to want to make sure one more time for the record, because we have people watching at home and they can't see the whole room. We don't have any abutters present, correct? And we don't have any that have called in for any questions or concerns. Hearing none, seeing none. Do you have anything else you'd like to add, ladies?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay. So, motion to close the public portion of the hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
Second.
Vice Chair?
I approve.
Mr. Chacolo?
Approve.
Mr. Cussy? Approve. Mr. Garabedian? Approve. Okay, and I vote to approve, so the public portion of the hearing is closed, so, does anybody want to make a motion on the, 610 applicant Ataf Wahaba requesting a special permit under section 9312 of the Auburn zoning bylaw for an accessory apartment located at 18 Coolidge Street, map 57, parcel 128?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Cole? No. Before I make such a motion, I just wanted to open for, just my thoughts for discussion.
Okay.
And that I feel confident that the permitting process, will take care of any concerns that the town might have based on the legitimacy. And I would further, just thank and commend the applicant for coming forward, and doing the right thing. I know they landed in their earlier comments on wanting to see if they could rent it. We're not changing the footprint here.
Correct.
And they've already done some work, perhaps someone close to them is handy and they've done the work themselves. But the fact that our town inspector will be in there to make sure that it satisfies
Right.
everything that we need, I don't know that we could ask for anything more, than someone that wants to flip into an accessory apartment. I did have a question, but it's minor. The plans call for a multifamily, but they're clearly asking for an accessory apartment. Square footage is a non-issue. So I had that open question. But unless any of the other board members wants to take on any of those topics, I would make a motion to approve with standard conditions. And I make the motion of standard conditions because I did also clarify with the building inspector this fire.
Fire code sheet.
Thank you. Yes, the fire separation, is in fact part of standard conditions. It doesn't need to be
Right.
called out.
Yeah, it's not an additional code
Exactly.
issue. It's standard
Exactly.
code, yep.
So I would thank them and I would make the motion to approve with standard conditions.
Okay, do I have a second?
You do, second.
Thank you. Okay, so Vice Chair,
I approve.
Mr. Chacolo,
Approve.
Mr. Cussy.
Approve.
Mr. Garabedian. Approve. And I approve. So, ladies, you're all set. So, what I would recommend at some point, get in contact with the building department. They can proceed and help you decide which way you're gonna go from there. Excuse me, I can't say help you decide. Help you traverse the rest of this mission to get it done, and, you'll get your permit issued once all the requirements are met.
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you.
Thank you. So we gotta close, and we have one. So, do I have a motion to close the 6:10 PM hearing?
We close.
We did, well,
Well, we closed the public portion.
Yeah, but I
Do we
mean-
still have to, okay.
Yeah.
Still, make a motion to close the hearing as stated, Mr.
I'll second.
thank you. Okay, Vice Chair?
I approve.
Mr. Chacolo?
Approve.
Mr. Cussy? Approve. And Mr. Garabedian? Approve. And I approve. Okay. 6:27, and we're hitting our 6:15, not bad. So, we have a 6:15 PM applicant, Kimley Horn and Associates Incorporated, requesting a special permit under section 4.3.5.1 of the Auburn zoning bylaw to render more than 15% of a lot impervious in the Aquifer Zone 2 for property located at 319 Washington Street, map 42, parcel 31. Do I have a motion to open the 6:15 hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to open the hearing.
And I'll second.
Thank you. Vice Chair?
I approve.
Mr. Chacolo?
Approve.
Mr. Cussy? Approve. Mr. Garabedian? And I approve. So the hearing is open. Is the applicant present? Great. If you could just approach the lectern, please, and give us an overview of what you're trying to accomplish.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for hearing our application. We are requesting a special permit for the rendering of over 15% of the lot area. We're proposing 2 self-storage buildings on this existing vacant lot, totaling around 141,000 square feet in gross floor area. They will be bi-level buildings, so on each side of the building, the storage rental customers will be able to enter on a ground floor, and then there will be 2 floors. So the existing site slopes to the southeast corner of the parcel. There are wetlands currently located in that area right now, and we are not proposing to disturb them with our application. We're also keeping intact the 100-foot wetland buffer around them. So overall, our stormwater design and grading is really taking those features into account and making sure they're protected. There is some off-site drainage that's coming onto the property, and that's from the Santander Bank, and then also the farm property to the west. We're proposing to bypass that through the site so that it gets to the wetlands, it continues its existing drainage pattern. And then for our on-site stormwater, we are proposing an underground infiltration basin. And that will provide some quantity and as well as quality treatment to our stormwater. I think that's the overview that I wanted to give, so I'll pause there for maybe any questions or comments.
Okay, so just to make sure that we have no butters present, obviously, and nobody's called in before I turn it over to the members of the board. Okay, hearing none, seeing none. Vice Chair, to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So two quick questions. The permit specifically is calling for a relief on the permeable surface. Why can't this be constructed so that you don't need the relief?
Under 15% impervious. We would not be able to accomplish, a large enough building and parking and everything, access that would be needed for this facility on the parcel. It just would not be enough area.
Thank you. Has this gone for peer review for the stormwater and traffic?
It is not. So this is our first step. We're going to be going to Planning Board, Conservation Commission, but we're coming to you all first.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to reserve, give the other board members a chance to jump in.
Thank you. Mr. Coffey?
Yeah, the question I have is what are we gonna store in here?
Yeah, it's just going to be your typical self-storage facility. They're developing it for public storage, so furniture, whatever customers would come in and store. They will not allow chemicals, like contracting equipment, such like that. So nothing hazardous.
Mr. Chairman, this is going to be moved over to the planning board anyways, correct?
So,
After or during or prior to the peer review?
so they're asking for a special permit for the impervious aquifer zone 2. So if it does not proceed past this board, it does not proceed, because we are the stewards of the aquifer.
That's true.
So then we decide whether or not we agree with this is our specialty, this is where we belong right now.
Do we need any input from the Conservation Commission?
We do not, because it does not reach the Conservation Commission's eyes for review until it passes our hurdle. We are the gatekeeper.
Okay, well put. I have no questions.
Okay. Mr. Garabedian, sir.
First, Mr. Marin covered my question about traffic, but second, do you have a rough estimate of what percent would be impervious? I know it's more than 15%, but.
Yeah, 34%.
Okay. I am going to reserve until I hear one more round, and then I don't want to unduly create any more issues with the board, or unless you'd like to hear my opinion now, that's fine, but I was going to go to the Vice Chair Marin.
Yeah, I don't have anything more specific, Mr. Chairman, to be quite honest, and I appreciate your responses to Mr. Chacolo. I may agree with you based on, where we sit as far as being the gatekeeper for the Aquifer District. I'm very interested to hear your line of questioning or your thinking.
So let's do this. So do you have anything else you'd like to add before I begin? I just want to try to find out if you have anything else you want to add to the conversation before I close the public portion of the hearing.
No, I think, go ahead.
So I'd like to make a motion, or I'd like to request a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
Second.
Okay, so Vice Chair Maron?
I approve.
Mr. Chacolo? Approve. Mr. Cussy? Approve. Mr. Garabedian? Approve. And I approve. Okay, so the, public portion of the hearing is officially closed. Do you want to go around one more time, or do you want to hear what I have to say first?
I'll add my comments and then I'll have you pile right on.
Okay.
Because I'll be brief. For me, and that's why, and I think it was a very thoughtful response, that the young lady provided on, why couldn't we do this, on the 15th. It doubles it, right? So it goes from, north of, and thank you for asking that question, Ms. Garabedian, because it was on my mind, but I didn't think to ask it. But it doubles the impervious. And so my thought is, yes, you want to maximize a lot based on a build. And I would very much like to see something over there because the area has been barren forever, I suppose, certainly before my time. But that just means that you reconfigure and you have a few less garage bays and you, I mean, can it be done without doubling the amount of impervious? Being the steward of the aquifer, sure it can. They can just make it one of the buildings smaller. They can, lob off a little bit of the revenue for what it's worth. I mean, that's just for my take, and asking the town for relief on doubling the allowable impervious surface. And so that's just my my visceral thought that could this be done and conform? Sure it could. They just choose not to because they want to maximize the lot and their revenue.
Okay. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Cussy?
Yeah, it is wet there, there's some water coming off the hill, but I think, if they can catch this water and get it back into the ground with the correct system, I don't know that it would, be that much of a problem, doubling the amount of, coverage. If it's constructed correctly, I think that, they could make it work. I do know that it's an aquifer. So there's buildings, all along with the big giant buildings.
You're right.
So you have to put in
Yeah.
the correct system to put the water back into the ground.
You're right, Mr. Cussy.
That's all I have to say.
I would agree that with the correct recharging system, you'd be okay. But I'm very interested in hearing our chairman's take on this.
Mr. Garabedian? I agree with that. Sorry. Okay, no, it's okay. I was just trying not to influence anybody. I want to make sure they all had everybody was clear on this. So my issue is that as stewards of the aquifer protection zones, if you look at historically what we've granted for permits and permissible expansion, this greatly exaggerates that, and I know that we have to take each one individually. We don't have a lot of land left, and we definitely need to be able to manage our stormwater properly to recharge our aquifers. We have a pond right across the street there, and, I just have issue with giving them that much. I think we don't even allow that, with other bylaws that give us the opportunity to expand should the board see fit, and I just think this is a big ask.
Yeah, it's definitely a big
I think, I personally think it's too big, too much, but that's just me. And I acquiesce to what the board prefers to do, so.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Chairman, I'm not in disagreement. I mean, I look at the stewards of an aquifer, and I think Mr. Chacolo and Mr. Cussy are absolutely right. With the right recharging system, if it's done correctly and it's managed correctly, I think that, and I think a project of this size, they'll certainly bring in a team that goes through all the checks and balances and site review and the planning board. But I'm challenged with, a commercial response of, well, this is the size that works for maximizing the lot. Well, sure it does, but, could you make this, and I fall back on my initial comments, I mean, could you make this work smaller? Sure you could. Go with one building instead of two, go with, and maybe that's not practical based on the build, and I get it, but to ask us for relief on doubling, what our size would be, I think is, as you say, it's a very big ask.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughtful comments they want to add?
I have one that, one thing is if this were gonna be like a trucking company or something, that, the trucks are dirty, then I would have a major issue with it. But the use is not really that pollutant, there's no chemicals involved, not tons of trucks. So that's why I say, doubling it, if it's built correctly, maybe it could work.
I don't have the experience, through the chair of renting one of these units but, is it a practice when you rent one of these units that, they restrict what you can put in? I mean, I imagine there's a privacy concern where you're the only one as an owner that knows what you're putting in there, right?
I think so. Yeah.
But at the same time, based on the contract that you would take on with them, I would imagine they restrict the materials that you can put inside. As described by the applicant, that, they're not letting folks store gasoline and waste oil. But I think it's a good point, Mr. Cussy.
And the traffic, I don't think there's gonna be a ton of traffic created. I mean, there'll be some, but there could be something here that would create a lot worse, traffic situation.
It's not like an In-N-Out Burger with a drive-through.
Correct.
Right? I mean, you're gonna have spot traffic needs based on the ebb and flow of somebody visiting their unit. But it would be very unlikely, I would imagine, for every unit owner to show up at the same time.
Right. So that's another issue I have, that where,
Mr. Chairman?
You gentlemen done? Yes, Mr. Chacolo?
I know we have set amounts in our bylaws. And as you have stated, this is more than doubling that. Is there a way for us to determine just what doubling that area, what that impact is? You could say we're going to double the impervious surface on 10 acres, this is hypothetical, on 10 acres, and we might consider the impact of that pretty low. Is there a way to determine just exactly what water flows through there? Is there any kind of a study or exactly what this impact would be?
Well, so I think the impact here is that they want that because they want a natural process of introducing that water back into the soil prior, or more prefer to have it naturally leach back into the soil.
Sure.
Rather than going through the recharge process.
Sure.
Because of all the other contaminants, et cetera, that go with that.
But in this particular situation,
That's what I'm saying, the recharge system will have to manage regardless of how big it is. It's just whether or not we want to let them cap all that. And then, and that water sheds in different directions. So that's really what it comes down to, but.
and do we have any means by which we could actually determine the impact that's running off that hill?
Well, I would think the peer review would probably manage that if that's what,
Yeah,
if you would have
that's
sent it to the next level, because Graves Engineering would require that, and they could probably produce those numbers. But again, I think it would vary from storm to storm. If we got 6 inches of rain, we got a foot of rain, we got a sprinkler. So, that's why they maximize those systems to manage a, quote unquote 100-year storm, right? So.
you have that lower corner by Old Common Road. I wouldn't want anything going out on the Route 20, that would be my fear too, it would have to not have any
And
water.
it has one entrance, if I'm not mistaken, there's one entrance on Route 20. There's there two. I only pictured the one as I drove by. I saw that one right by the entrance.
Yeah.
I think that was maybe a construction entrance or an access road to go up and get the bulldozer out of there that was there.
Yeah, that was originally probably
Yeah.
part where the farm would go from field to field or whatever.
Right, and I have seen several trucks up there in the course of the past month, we'll say. I don't know if it's really a road.
Well, it's an open guardrail, so I'm assuming the state is aware of it, because they ended and began the guardrail on either side of that
Right.
All right.
curb cut. So it has to be at least somewhere acknowledged on a state plan.
Yeah, there's, if I may interject, some existing transmission lines that bisect the site. So that is, I believe, just an access road to make sure that the power company can access those.
Yeah, there was once a proposal, I believe, for a movie theater here. you know, a long time ago. And that traffic there would have just been insane, you know, I don't, going in and out of there. So this is, you know, like you say, there's a lot of water, but it's, the use is, it's, you know, you're not getting the traffic, you're not getting the trucks, in and out of there, so. But it's a big ask, like you say.
Mr. Garabedian?
I'd just say it definitely looks like they're doing their work to make sure that the water, they have the recharge system, I believe, on C5.0. And it seems like they put some of the preliminary work in, and as the chairman said, we're the first hurdle, so a lot of the problems, I think, are gonna get solved out if we do approve.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Do you have any more?
I don't, no, I just wanted to make sure we're all good.
Yeah, it's like you say, it's a big building. I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but
Yeah, I have
eventually
mixed
something.
feelings both ways
Yeah.
because,
It is an aquifer.
and that pond being right there.
No common road comes into play. There'd be a ton of site work, I mean, that's for sure. But the engineers can make it work, as we know.
Yeah, I don't really think they would have a challenge with developing a proper recharge system. I mean, honestly, I mean, you know, it's been done all over Route 20 here and it's been managed. I don't think it really comes down to the issue of whether or not they can manage the system
Yeah.
or whether or not it can be built properly, because we'll have that during the vetting process. The question is whether or not you just simply want to give them the amount of, you know, added additional, impervious surface.
It's huge.
Yeah, it really is, and
We've
it's,
never before, given it since I've been around,
we
I don't think, but.
we haven't come close to that. And again, we're standing that everything stands on its own, but, you
Yeah.
know, Mr. Chairman, I think we would agree that articulately, it can be done. But the question before us is, should it be done?
Right. Yeah, something's gonna go there, and I'm looking at the use, this use is not a terrible use, I don't think, for the traffic I'm looking at, and, also pollution.
Yeah, it's certainly more controlled, Mr. Cussy.
Yeah,
You know,
that's-
you're not
what I'm-
doing oil changes in there and,
Right.
yeah, and uncontrolled contaminants.
So maybe a good use. We're just looking at the water.
I, for one, might be far more satisfied if it was just smaller, if we're talking about one building. Because it's a big ask.
We can do that, I mean.
Okay, I mean, I don't know if, pondering is gonna get us to where we need to be, like, so to speak. I mean, you just gotta decide if you agree with it or not, and then, you know, we can make a vote, and if it moves forward, it moves forward. I mean,
Agree, Mr. Chairman.
okay, so, should I ask for a, are you prepared if I ask for a motion, or do you wanna have a little more discussion?
I'd be prepared, Mr. Chairman. I think to your point, we're pondering it at this point. You know, based on how we viscerally fall to this.
Okay. So do I have a motion for the 6:15 PM applicant Kimley Horn and Associates requesting a special permit under section 4.3.5.1 of the Auburn zoning bylaw to render more than 15% of a lot impervious in the Aquifer Zone 2 for property located at 319 Washington Street, map 42, parcel 31?
Could I ask one more question?
You certainly can. The
Yeah.
motion stays, it's open until
Right.
somebody makes
I
a
just-
comment, so.
Would you be willing to go smaller with the project? I mean, with the.
I,
You actually close the public portion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's not really a question of being
Yeah.
willing, they presented
Yeah.
the permit as is, so.
And to that point, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Cussy, if we were to take such a vote and it did not fall in their favor for this application, then would a substantive change, be acceptable if they came back on a reduction in size?
And that's a very good point, and quite honestly, it's up to us to interpret if it's a substitute change, so we can make that decision. If it does go that way, there is a plan B, so to speak.
Understood, because I would not want to see the door closed, but,
Right. That was my thought.
because I do think that the use is attractive for that lot.
Me too.
Okay, well, Mr. Chairman, to move us forward, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve with standard conditions.
Okay, Mr. Cussy?
I approve.
Okay, Mr. Chacolo?
We need a second on it.
I apologize, you're right, thank you, sir. Do I have a second? Mr. Cussy, do you want to take that as a second?
I will second,
Thank
yes.
you. Okay, so now we have Vice Chair,
I approve.
Mr. Cussy? Mr. Chacolo?
Approve.
Mr. Garabedian?
Approve.
So I'm gonna vote to deny, but it doesn't really matter because it's gonna pass anyway. In the interest of. We only do it once in an article, and it's probably asking too much, but that's okay. So regardless, my opinion on it, the measure passes. So you can be in contact with the, building department and then they will arrange the rest of the procedures to get the rest of the project vetted.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, as they exit, I'm just going to suggest that your vote does matter, because you voted your conscience.
I do, always,
And
thank
that
you.
will always matter.
And I appreciate
That
that.
will
Thank you very much.
that will always matter to me.
I do appreciate that, thank you. So, all set, good luck.
Thank you. Good evening.
Close the hearing.
Okay, so, yep.
Thanks for your thoughtful answers.
Do I have a motion to close the 6:15 PM hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the 6:15 PM hearing as stated, Mr. Chairman.
I will second.
Thank you. Vice Chair Maron?
I approve.
Mr. Chacolo?
Approve.
Mr. Cussy?
Approve.
Mr. Garabedian? Approve. And I vote to approve. So that is closed. So we do have, I did see at one point, we had
Some minutes?
December minutes? Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the December minutes as submitted?
Mr. Chairman, I thoughtfully read them, and
Absolutely.
I do make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. So Vice Chair Maron?
I approve.
Mr. Chacolo?
Approve.
Mr. Cussy?
Approve.
Mr. Garabedian? And I vote to approve. Okay, and we don't have any new business. Our next meeting is February 16th, 2023. Hope to see you there. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Vice Chair?
I approve.
Mr. Chacolo? Mr. Cussy?
Approve.
Mr. Garabedian? And I vote to approve. We are adjourned.